Well, good morning, everybody. We are in this series called Back to the Start, and I want to welcome everybody. My name is Michael. I am the lead pastor. I don't like calling myself the senior pastor because that makes me feel old. But to those that are watching online, welcome. But we know that most people will watch there before they ever come into the door, and so we're thankful. We're thankful each of you guys are here. This series is, if you could turn me down just a little bit. This series is, we've been talking about the book of Amos, and most people don't even realize the book of Amos exists in the Bible. They just kind of, they just kind of thumb past it. They just see it, and then it's all of a sudden and it's gone. It's only 9 chapters, but Amos was really one of these first prophets that comes out and says, hey, this is what's going on, and if you don't turn away from your ways, then you're going to face some of these other issues, and really it's going to be the destruction of Israel. And this happens at about 760 BC, and Amos is a lot like some of us that we come out and we go, stop doing that, and he gives all these warnings, but and really what happens is he goes, your festivals and all this stuff that's happening is really worthless. Because we're not being true worshipers. We're not really doing what God has asked us to do. We're not following through what he's asked us to do. And I wanted to talk a little bit about that. We need to go back to the start of this about becoming true worshipers. I think one of the greatest prayers of our church is that we do become true worshipers, that we reflect the heart of God, that it looks like that this is a group of believers that go out and we actually reflect and do. And I love that. There's songs out there that say, if you listen to K-Love at all, if you listen to The Message, if you listen to satellite radio, if you're listening to any of those, there's songs out there where Jesus goes, I sent you, or Matthew West says, I sent you to be able to make those differences, and I want to be a reflection of you. I want to be that when people see me, they see you in me. And so really what we want to be able to do is, I think that's a true representation of what we look like as a church, and I think a lot of times we don't do that. I think a lot of times we get very complacent and we get comfortable in following Jesus. In John 4, verses, so I'm going to kind of bounce around here a little bit today, and it says, verse 23, it says, yet a time is coming and has now come when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and in truth. For they are the kind of worshipers the Father seeks. The true worship. When you look at this, he doesn't come out and say that he's looking for the best public speakers. He doesn't come out and say that he's looking at the most charismatic leaders. He doesn't come out and say that he's looking for the most gifted admin person, the best looking, the best style, the best organized. He comes out and says that he's looking for the most and the best, truest worshipers. See, the problem is that we don't actually truly worship. When we come in, we get so caught up on the things around us. We get so worried about what the person next to us is thinking and what that person's doing. And we go, I can't raise my hands because we get so, everything in here our brain gets in the way of actually doing what God has asked us to do. At the beginning of every service that we have 20, 25, 30 minutes of worship, and it can be the most uncomfortable time for some of you guys. Instead of actually engaging with God, we've made it weird. We've gone, instead of going, I want to do what God has asked me to do, and worship and seek him and really be with him, we go, well, what's the person next to me going to think? What's the person over there going to think? And what happens if I don't sound very good? What are they going to say about that? Or what? And it really, we've created this disconnect. We've created this, that we've made it to where we don't worship because we're so worried about what others around us. We don't even express devotion during that time. And so I talk to people and they go, I show up late in order to avoid the worship. Well, why? I don't like music. Well, wait a minute. It's not music that you're actually avoiding at that point. It's really, you're really avoiding this connection with God. I'll tell you right now, if you connect with God during my message, there's probably something a little off. And here's the reason why, is because this is teaching, this is informational, this is for you to be able to walk away with it. This is not for you to be able to go, I'm reaching out, I'm lifting my holy hands and going, Father, I'm trying to connect with you. This is us being able to get it and walk out of the door and being able to apply it and use it in our lives. The worship is where we actually connect. The worship is where I've never ever had somebody walk out of here with pure tears of joy coming down their face because the message well, now I'm lying there because that's happened too. But it happens so much more regularly when we see the true aspect of worship happening. You know, when it's good, it's great, isn't it? When the worship is good, even when worship is bad, it's still good. You know, and it's because it's where our heart is. It's where our devotion goes. See, what I love is here's what I really love about worship is if you're a parent in here, you can kind of relate to this story. And if you're not a parent, you've been a child once and you've done this, is that what I used to love is that my kids don't do it as often now. When I walk in the door, they kind of look at me and go, "Oh, you're here." And that's kind of how some of us act. If God was to walk in the door, we go, "Oh, he's here. Cool." But when my kids were smaller, I would walk in the door and you would hear this excitement. "Daddy!" And they would come running, and guess what they would have? Their arms would be out, and they'd be like, "Daddy, pick me up." And see this, and I look at this and I go, this is how we have to have this excitement and this to be chasing after God that way. And we don't do that. We just kind of go, "Oh, meh." It's kind of the generation that we are now. Instead of going, "Father," or, and really we need to make this change. And see, in Amos, he gives us, before we get to that, in Matthew 15, verses 8 and 9, it says, "These people will honor me with their lips, but their hearts are far from me, and their worship is farce." Think about this. Is our worship fake? Is it just kind of one of those things that I was going to show a video, but I couldn't get the licensing for it, and I didn't want to steal it. That kind of set a bad precedent. But there's, when Nelson Mandela died, all these world leaders came together and they did his funeral, and they did it on a public stage. And the public stage, they had a gentleman that was doing sign language off to the side. And the guy who was doing sign language was just kind of up there doing just weird stuff. It wasn't actually sign language. He was just up there like, "Hey, what's up?" Like the guy would say all different things and he would do the exact same moves all over again. He'd be like, "There's something wrong." This is at Nelson Mandela's funeral, by the way. This is a serious thing that happens. And the guy, so people question it later, and he goes, "I'm a little crazy," is what he said. That's literally what he came out and he said, "I'm a little crazy. I was off my meds that day." But the thing is that how we are? Are we just going through the motions, just making some weird stuff up instead of actually truly worshiping and doing what he's asked us to do? I think that we get so caught up in going the look, and I'm just supposed to be looking like I'm doing it. I'm making the moves, everything seems perfect, but we're not actually truly worshiping. In Amos, this is what God says. It says, I despise your religious festivals. Your assemblies are a stench to me. Let's just stop there for a second. They would come together, and he even had to repeat this. It says, "I hate." And so the language of "I hate" is not one of those languages that we utilize. I hate that. That's not the type of language that's utilized in the Bible. When you see this word "I hate" and then followed by "I despise" right afterwards, this is very bad language in the Bible. This is pretty much the worst language that you can come up with how bad something is. I don't know what that is in our slang today, but this is probably worse than that. For him to have to repeat it twice. "And I despise your religious festivals." I despise it. Even your assemblies are a stench to me. Anybody, you ever smelt something so bad that it causes you to have that reflux right here? Like you've had it, like if you've had children, you've had it. Debbie this morning told me a little bit about that stench that she had that she had to encounter, where you smell something and all of a sudden you just go, I need to leave. I just have to go. And this is exactly what's happening right here, is that this is the type of stench that we're seeing. And this is what they're coming together and they're going, "We're doing this in the name of our Father. We're coming together, we're worshiping, we're raising our holy hands," but they're actually not. They're actually not doing it. They're just going through the motions instead of actually doing what he's asked us to do. And it says, even though you bring me burnt offerings and grain offerings, I won't accept them. You brought me some stuff. That's pretty cool. But it's worthless. It's because you're not doing it with the right heart. You're not doing it with you're just bringing it. You're just bringing it here so that other people can see you and so that you think that you're getting it, but you're not doing it with the right heart. And it says, even though you bring your choice fellowship offerings, I will have no regard for them. Away with the noise of your songs. I will not listen to the music of your harps, but let justice roll on like a river, righteousness like a never-failing stream. And see, here's the thing. You guys ever see what water does? You know, we can try and stop water. You ever notice that if water is rolling, right, if it's moving, you ever notice what it does? If you haven't noticed what it does, how many of you have heard of the Grand Canyon? Okay, so that's what water does. Water makes Grand Canyons. You know, and that's just simple as that. And so what he's saying is that I'm going to make a way, and it will move you out of the way. You know, and when we come in with this falseness, it really all we're doing is just in the way of actually the righteousness flowing through the rest of the building. We come in and we have this fake worship, we have this fakeness. All of a sudden, he's just like, it's all here. What you bring in is worthless, and even your offering, all that stuff is worthless. It needs to go, and it makes me sick. It makes it to where I want to throw up. The stench of it. I despise it. I hate it. When we walk in the door, what sort of true worship are we giving? Are we actually honoring, and is it a personal relationship that we walked in here with today? Or are we just walking, and now for some of you guys, you're brand new, you just walked in, and you're like, wow, this dude is on one. You know, but here's the thing is that you may be a new believer, you may not be a believer at all, and you're like, this God is, you know, wow. Wow is right. He wants us to worship. He wants us to have a relationship with him and not a fake relationship. He wants us to have a true relationship with him, one of intimate worship. You know, we hear that word intimate, right? What do we think of? When you think of that, you know, some of you guys, it's close, right? You know, you ever walked into, you know, when we walk through, even now when we walk through Macy's, or not Macy's, but Walmart, because Walmart has the intimate apparel section. And I walk along and I have to turn my head away from it. I was like, because some of it I'm like, man, who's wearing that? Because that's not really clothes. I mean, but it's close. You know, and you see some of this stuff, you look at it and you go, it's close, and some of it is sheer. You know, you can see through it, and you can see that there's an actual, is your relationship like that? Is your relationship with God close? Is it one of those things where people, I'm telling you, is that when people look at it, they have to look away because they go, man, that is, you know, it's like, have you ever seen anybody, and I kind of throw this out there, we have a song out there. Have you ever seen anybody that's like made out very sloppily? Like where you're like, that's just go get a room, please. Please. Is your relationship with God like that? Or you're like, man, will you please just go get a room? You know? Because we don't have that type of relationship. And I know I put it in those type of levels, make you laugh and walk out of here and go, but how tight is our relationship? How close is it with God? Is it very farce? Is it fake? Is it just very surface level? Is it like this table? Like I look at it on this side and it's black, and I think on the bottom of it it's wood, right? It's got this, but it's just very surface level. It's laminate across the top of it. Is that our relationship with God? Is it just like a laminate across the top? It's fake. It's you know, and the first time that this thing gets wet, it's destroyed. It's over. You get water in here, and it's worthless. Then it just crumbles apart. Is that how we are? Is that how our relationships are? We know that God is seeking true worshipers. We know that. And we want to give him the worship and the honor and the glory that he is due. Well, what are we doing for that? I mean, nobody ever wants to come in here. Nobody ever walked in and goes, you know, I don't really want to give him what he's due. I don't want to honor him. And nobody ever walks in here that way. Everybody walks in here and goes, I want to do what God has asked me to do in my life. I want to follow what he's asked me. But what's stopping me and what's preventing me from doing that. Have you noticed that our culture has changed so dramatically? Our culture has shifted, and it's gone into this, I start looking at things, and I talk to people, and I go, what has happened? And I'll just kind of bring this out. It's because we've gotten very distracted. So, I'm 40. And so, 30 years ago, I played Little League Baseball. Anybody play Little League Baseball, or you ever play sports as a kid? Did you ever play on Sundays? You might have did something with the church afterwards, right? But did you ever do anything on Sundays? Sundays were the holy day, right? Didn't you ever? Because like when I was a kid, Sundays, they would even tell you. I signed up for Little League, and they go, we don't play on Sundays. Sundays is for church. That's what they told me when I signed up. Even when I played, like when I coached soccer, they said, we don't play on Sundays because of church. We want to make sure that people get that time with their families. And did you guys know that prior to 1980, that Walmarts were all closed on Sundays? They weren't even open. And did you know that most businesses that are actually closed on Sundays will do the same amount of volume on the 6 days that they're open than they would if they were open on the 7th day? Did you know that? In fact, it's proved by Chick-fil-A. They've proven it. And so what we've done is that we've actually created more expenses, we've caused more issues, and we've done those things because we've taken the holy day and we've removed it. We've said we're not going to truly worship anymore. We'll give God the leftovers, or we'll give him what we think he deserves. And it's kind of like with a teenager. Some of us, anybody in here, if you had a teenager, and I as a kid, I even had one. So the Super Nintendo came out, and the Nintendo NES system, the regular one, came out, and it ate up a lot of my time. Anybody ever, did you get a video game system, and all of a sudden your thumb had like a Nintendo controller built into it? It's all, and it took me away from cleaning my room. It took me away from actually having relationships. It took me away from, I remember I would spend more time on the video game system than I would outside playing. And as a kid, that's kind of concerning, right? It's kind of concerning that our kids don't want to go outside. Like I remember before the video game system, I used to stand at the screen door just hoping somebody would be outside playing so I could go out there, because I wasn't allowed to go out there by myself because my mom knew what sort of trouble I would get into. She'd be like, you got to have somebody with you so I can beat both of you. And so I would just be standing there and I would sit there and I'd imagine what I could be doing out there. I was like the cat in the window, just looking out there going, man, I could go and climb that tree and jump into that bush and build that fort up there and do this. And I would look at the scrap wood in our backyard and I'd be like, I could go and build this out. Our kids don't have that. Our kids go, I can build that in Minecraft. I can build that in Roadblocks, or I can do this, and I can, and they don't have that ingenuity of going, I can make that into, and that's not part of this, but we've gotten away from the things that we were supposed to be doing. We were supposed to keeping Sunday holy. We were supposed to be keeping family time holy, right? Anybody in there, do you have a rule in your house that you go, hey, at 6 o'clock, we've turned off the cell phones. It's family time. Just doesn't, we don't do that, because without this, we're like, man, what am I going to do if I don't know what's happening in somebody else's life on Facebook? The people I love the most are right here in this room. But I'm not going to show them that. I'm going to show them that the people that are thousands of miles away. Now, for some of you, you have people that are thousands of miles away. I saw that Will was watching. And so Will, thousands of miles away. But that's what we do. We don't treat the people that are right there in front of us. And so when we look at this and we go, we've changed our culture so much that we've gone away from making God number one. We've gone away from actually having true worship. We've gone away from going that time with him and that desire to pursue him. And we've gone and said, nope, I'm gonna pursue fake relationships. I'm gonna pursue technology. I'm gonna lose my imagination. And really, we go on, why is it that we've seen such destruction in our personal relationships? And why have we seen that people have run away from God? Is because we haven't said, I'm going to make him number one and actually truly worship him. That's why. It's one of these scary times that we have to make. Guys, and I'm going to just tell you, is that the church in the North American church and the European church are in its fastest declines ever. And the reason why is because we've stopped truly worshiping. We've stopped saying, I'm going to pursue God. I'm going to, and we're going to go and we're going to truly say that you are number one, that you are, that I will trust, that I know that if you call me out, I can walk on the water. We have to get to that mindset. True worshipers, what does it look like? Number one, I don't know if I did the psalm. Did I do the psalm? It says, here's what it is. It says, shout with joy to the Lord, all the earth. Worship the Lord with gladness and come before him singing with joy. Acknowledge that the Lord is God. He made us. We are his. We are his people, the sheep of his pasture. Enter his gates with thanksgiving. Go into his courts with praise. Giving thanks to him and praise his name, for the Lord is good. His unfailing love continues forever, and his faithfulness continues to each generation. God is seeking true worshipers. What does it look like? Do we worship with gladness, or do we just show up and go, hey, I'm here to just check in. I got my pew miles in, now I'm going to go back home and I'm going to do what I want to do. And what does it look like? And is our faithfulness continuing along with his faithfulness? True worshipers worship with awe. If you're following along the notes, this is on our app. Worship with awe. Step back and I am in awe of what God has done. I'm in awe of what God has done in my life. Have you looked at your life and said, look at what you've done, God. Look at where you've taken me from and to where I'm at now. Look at how you've delivered me. Look at all the stuff that you got me out of. Because I know some of you, I've listened to your stories. I go, you should be in prison. And yet here you are, worshiping. You should be in awe of what he's done. He let you get away with it. Look at how many times, I've told you guys, I was in a car accident. I had 8 people in the car. We were driving a station wagon. Bad scene, right? I shouldn't have been driving a station wagon. Come on. Driving in a station wagon, coming back from Lake Berryessa, doing 60 miles an hour, and little sounds bother me. The soda can was rolling around on the floor. So what is that? Guy in the passenger seat lifted up. He says, what, this Coke can? I looked at him, drove right off the road. Drove right off the road. Everybody should have been killed in the car. I was doing 60 miles an hour, hit a ditch. Everybody should have been. Each and every one of us got out of the car, walked away without a scratch on us. Each and every one of us. Now, granted, station wagon made in the 70s, so it was steel. But nobody, I'm telling you, is that the windshield didn't even break. And so I look at it and I go, I got out of the car, I walked away from the car, and I said, that is amazing. I was in awe of this. I was in awe of being saved. I'm going, and I stood there at the side of it, and I had tears streaming down the side of my face. And people go, Mike, it's just a car. And I go, I don't care about the car. I'm alive. I was in awe of it. Didn't change my life, but I was in awe of it. I look back at it, and I go, that is one of the most impactful times of my life, because I remember it so clear as day. I remember every moment of it. I remember the people in the car. And then I look at what each one of them are doing. One of them, the guy who actually lifted up the Coke can, in and out of jail. In and out of jail. Today, he works as a chaplain in a state prison. He was in and out of jail until he was 23 years old. Now he works as a chaplain in a state prison. When you look at this and you go, even him, and we talked about this recently, and he goes, I remember that day clearly. He said, I remember every one of those encounters that I had this opportunity for God to go, turn your life around, walk away from what you were doing, be in awe of what I'm doing. You know, some of us, we've just gotten to that mindset where we don't go in awe of what God has done in our life. Therefore, since we are receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken, let us be thankful and so worship God acceptably with reverence and awe, for our God is a consuming fire. And here's what it says. If you look at Psalm 95:6, it says, come, let us bow down and worship, and let us kneel before the Lord our Maker. I am telling you is that there have been several times where I've gotten to this point and I'm just going, God, thank you. And I know that we get to this mindset and we think that this is a position of submission. And we go, I'm not going to bow down. Well, I'm telling you is that when you keep standing and it's not working, you should bow down and pray. This is where we should start at. And I know you go, I'm not submitting. Well, you will submit. In fact, the Bible says every knee will bow and every tongue confess. You will do it willingly or unwillingly. It will happen. I'm telling you is that I would rather willingly make this and know that he's going to continue to provide for me and knowing that he's going to, and worship and love. We just get so caught up and we go in our own direction and we go, nope, I'm not going to do that. Think about this. When the wise men showed up, they bowed before Jesus. Simon Peter fell to his knees. One day, each of us will, and every tongue will confess. See, some of us, we fall to that position because we're overcome and we're overwhelmed with emotion. I go to that position because I'm overflowing with gratitude. We have to get to this mindset where we overflow with gratitude for what he's done. When was the last time you were stunned and you were shaken by the presence of God? When was the last time you've seen him in your, yesterday, Melissa and I've gotten on this kick of hiking for some reason, maybe because I want to lose some of this weight that I've been carrying around. And we go up on this hill, and we get up on the top of this hill, and it's just an old fire trail. It's here in town, and we get up on the top, and you can look out, and you can see all of Fairfield. You can see all of, and you can look out, and you can be in awe of what God has created, even here. You just look and go, it doesn't have to be over the bay. It doesn't have to be anything. But I'm just stunned at look and go, look what he's allowed us to use, and look what he's allowed us to have. And he doesn't expect anything back from us. He just goes, here, all he wants is us to worship. All he wants us to do is worship, and really to worship with abandon, to give up everything else behind us, to just go, I'm going to give. See, we get so caught up on what everybody else thinks. It's 2 Samuel 6:14, and David danced before the Lord with all of his might. And David danced before the Lord with all of his might. Now, mind you, David danced naked. Do you think that he was worried about what people were thinking? Do you think that he was going, do you think that he was like, hey, we got to get a ruler out? That's not the mindset that he went out. He said, I'm going to dance. And Michael comes out and he goes, you're humiliating yourself. You humiliated yourself. And this is what he says. This is what David responds to Michael. He goes, I was dancing before the Lord. And yes, I'm willing to look even more foolish than this, even to be humiliated in my own eyes. He goes, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. All that matters is what he thinks. What he believes about me, what he sees in me. It doesn't matter what anybody else in here thinks. Literally, if I'm doing what he's asked me to do, what does it matter? I see, here's the problem is that if I always worry about what people in here think, then I'm never going to move forward with him. I will let people pull me down and tear me back. And that's the problem. We can't ever get on the narrow pathway because we're so worried about people pulling us off of it. We end up turning around. When people call names at our back, we turn around and go try and face that issue. We're like, I got to go take care of that. They're just names. Move forward and do what God has asked you to do. Abandon all of that that's behind you because you need to move forward in what God has asked you to do. Stop worrying about what they think. That remember, the road is wide that leads to hell. They want you to be on it with them. They don't want you to get on the narrow path that leads to happiness and mercy and joy. They want you to be where they're at, and that negativity and going, I have to tear that person down because they're starting to look successful. I got to bring them down to my level. No, abandon all of that. Because of who God is and what he's already done for you. I can't help but give praise at that point. Can't help it. You know, there's a song out there. We used to do it a lot here. It's called Glorious. And if you have an iTunes account or you have something, I suggest you download that song, and really, because it talks about this. And there's another one, it's also done by a similar artist, and it says, because of what you've done, I give you praise, and I give you honor, and I give you glory. And I lift my voice on high because of what you have done. We get to this point, and we step back, and we go, no, I'm not going to do that because of what I've done. We think that we can keep doing it, and then we don't shout our voices. We get we take worship, and we go, I'm not going to cry out and go, Father. We go, no, I'm going to put my hands down here. Well, I know that Susan will help me out here because Susan sent me the video before. Is it Tim Hawkins that has the different levels of hand raising? You know, it starts out here. You're like, oh, I'll raise my hands a little bit. And as we start singing, I'll get to Liz level. And then maybe we get to chicken level, right? And then we get to we get to this point here where we're like, hey, I'll hold Simba out there over the cliff. And then finally up to here, but it's like these different levels. See, the thing is each one of us should have started here. Each one of us should have been up there. Worship with intimacy. We have to worship with intimacy. We have to get to this mindset of going, and see, David says this in Psalm 27, he says, the one thing I ask from the Lord is only do I seek that I may dwell in the house of the Lord for all the days of my life, to gaze upon the beauty of the Lord and to seek him in his temple. Think about this. So my wife isn't in here, so I don't get any bonus points for this. She's actually helping in kids today. But here's the thing. And if you've ever truly been in love, if you've ever truly that you've just said, for me, I love being in the presence of my wife. I just love being in her presence. I do. Even when she yells and screams and we argue and we bicker and all those things. See, here's the thing, is because I love every part of her. Every part of it. Even those times where I'm like, gosh, I wish she would stop doing that. I still love every part of who she is. And see, the thing is that it's the same thing about me. She, like all my negatives and my short temper and all that stuff, she goes, I love him. There's intimacy there. There's this relationship that I look at this and she goes, you wouldn't know what to do without me. And I go, you're right. I'll never tell you that, but you are right, because I would be devastated. It's anybody in here, anybody seen the movie The Notebook? And so every woman in here has seen it. What happens when she dies? He goes along with her. It's because that time. See, this is the type of relationship God wants with us. He wants that same relationship, to grow with him, to know him. When Melissa and I first met, we didn't know anything about each other. She did hair, I ran a bar. That's what it was, right? She was good looking. I was good looking at the time. It worked out. We have good looking kids. It just kind of comes out that way. And so, but as you get to know one another, as you get to start, you start going, and if you start realizing that you're not perfect either. See, that's the problem, is that most of us, we think that and I did it. I walked around, I thought I was God's gift to women. I see. I'm telling you, I don't do it now. But I had to learn that. That was one of those things that I learned, and I tell people, I said I was told no lots of times. And I was told no over and over again, and so I was used to being told no. And then I met Melissa, and Melissa would tell me no, but she also tells me, this is why no. And see, the difference is that I listen to her, and when we're on the same mindset and we have this intimate relationship, I understand why the no is. See, when we get told no by God, we don't have that relationship with him, so we don't understand why we're being told no. We don't have that intimacy. We don't have that understanding of why he's telling me no. Why is this happening? And so we go, oh, there's something wrong. There's nothing wrong. There's a reason behind it. You just haven't heard the reason yet. You aren't open to hearing the reason. You're not open to hearing what's going on. And I'm not just talking about facts. You know, I can give you all the facts about my wife. She's 5'1". She's 5 foot. She likes to be 5'1". With heels, she's 5'2". She hates how heels make her feet feel, so she'll put them on for an hour and then take them off. How about that? I can give you all the facts you want. The problem is that facts are not actually an intimate relationship. Facts are just not intimate knowledge of one another. Facts are just, I know that person, I know about that person, I know, but that's not character, and that's not who she is, and that's not the goodness of her. You don't see that until you actually have that relationship. Well, that's the same thing it is with God. We don't see the character of God. We don't see the goodness of God until we actually have that relationship where we're going back and forth, where we actually are willing to respect what he says to us, where we have that intimate worship. When he says no, there's a reason for it. We're not willing to do any of those things because we go, no, I don't have that character. I don't understand that he always has this best for me. Just like my wife always wants the best for me. She never wants me to go, oh, nope, I'm going to tell him this so that he ends up walking off that cliff. She always wants the best for me, and I always want the best for her. That's the same way God is with us, but we don't see it that way because we don't have that intimate worship. That's what I want for the Edge. I want intimate worship. How do we worship? We have to have that awe. We have to abandon those things that hold us back, and we have to have that intimacy. Psalm 141. This is David. David says, accept my prayer as incense offered to you, and my upraised hands as an evening offering. Lifted hands means two things, right? Anybody ever watch, anybody football fans in here? When somebody scores, what do? When somebody surrenders, what do? Very similar, huh? See, we've already won. We raise our hands in victory. We're not surrendering. This is victory. This is touchdown. When somebody I was watching a couple nights ago, I was watching the Giants game, and somebody hits a home run as a walk-off. His hand, first thing, comes to his hand here and then goes up to his hands, up in the air. It's victory. We've gotten to this mindset of going, oh, it's surrender. It's both. It's time for us to surrender from our pride, keeping up with the Joneses. It's time for us to give up those things and go, what is it that God will have for us? And God, which direction do you want us to go? And how do you want us to live? And to pursue that. And be amazed on how God provides for you and how God takes care of you and how God delivers. And you'll be in awe of what he'll deliver you from. I'll tell you, most of us, we don't realize the subtle changes that you see day after day, right? We just get up in the day and we go, it's the same thing the next day, the next day, and the next day. But if you look a year back to today, look at how far he's brought you. Look at how much things have changed in a year. And go 20 years back and look at how far he's delivered you. Look how much has happened in that time frame. Don't get caught up in the day-to-day activities. Look at what's happening long term. So, let's pray. Let's start there. Let's pray. Father, thank you. Thank you for giving us this chance and this opportunity to come back and just be intimate and true worshipers, to come back and just be in your presence, to see and to have that opportunity to really realign ourselves with you, to stop being afraid of reaching out and going, Father, I pursue you and I love you and I want you in my life. I'm tired of the stresses of the just monotony of chasing after the money or chasing after this job or chasing after whatever it is, and I want to pursue you and what you have for my life. Father, I ask that you awaken my soul to what you've already done. Awaken my heart and let me see the things that have happened in the past and what you've already delivered me from, and allow me and give me the strength to abandon that whatever that is in my past that I continue to hold on to, that drags me back to the road that leads to the place that none of us really want to go to. Father, we want to draw near to you, to become intimate, to become deeply acquainted with you, to know what love truly is. to have your presence that continues to remind us. And then to have that faith as a child to reach out and just go, Father, I'm so happy you're home. I'm so happy that you're here. Father, thank you. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So before I duck off out of here,